Well, of course, our favourite person to talk to each and every week, and the reason we're in HD, is none other than the wonderful Megyn Kelly, joining us from the United States. How are you, rockstar?
I'm so good. How are you?
Doing my best, doing my best. Now, I'm stuck back in, 1970s colour TV is good for me. HD is good for you, right? That's sort of the way the technology should work. Now, look.
Depends on the day.
Yeah. Before we get to politics and all the rest of it, can we just talk about one of our favourite subjects, that being, your old mate Meghan Markle? Now, I noticed today, and there's all this website stuff, but I noticed today that she's announced a brand new podcast deal, right? And it just got me thinking about, the princess in our life, you. Now, you started your own thing. You've built your own thing into millions of people around the world. Why can't she build something? She's just got to get paid by somebody else all the time.
Yeah, it's so true. And no one's ever heard of this podcast outlet that she's going to. As far as I could tell, they've got far, far lefties like Sarah Silverman and Samantha Bee, who are loathed by everybody who is center or right of center. So this is what she's signing up for. She's declaring she's not just liberal or progressive. She's a far left progressive. Those are her new partners. Yeah, she can't build it because no one will come. She tried that. Let me tell you, from Spotify to this lemonada is a big fall down. She knows that. She couldn't get anybody else to pony up the dough. She needs cold, hard cash because she wants to fly private and she wants all the trappings of the royal life without having to work for it. And she does want to fly private, and she is flying private on everyone else's dime. At the same time, as part of their rebrand, Harry's continuing to touting himself as an environmentalist. Okay, if you're an environmentalist, get on JetBlue. Stop with the private flights everywhere, because that's the only way they'll travel. And of course, she, another hypocrite, is calling herself a feminist who's going to shape the future. How? Because no one tuned into your first crappy podcast where all you did was lecture us on feminism and everyone hated it. Remember, she was so upset that she was objectified when she put on the tiny sparkly dresses on Deal or No Deal, and they didn't want to hear her thoughts on nuclear codes. So it's a joke. She's not a feminist. She's only a Meghanist. That's it. She cares about promoting one thing, herself. Just ask Katie Wadey, as she referred to Kate Middleton in her interview with Oprah, a low blow hit. Or ask Omid Scobie, Meghan's stenographer, who took way below the belt hits at Kate in the book he just put out. She only likes one woman. It's herself. She wasn't very good to the Queen, and now her partner in life, Harry, finds an opportunity to put himself back in the news. We talked about this last week. His father comes down with cancer, and he flies immediately over to the UK. Within 30 seconds, he had released that fact to the media. And even his father at this point is like, get out. He's there for 30 minutes. He insisted reportedly that he not be in the room with Queen Camilla. She's probably the only reason he got the invite to walk in the door anyway. He's called his father a racist. That's back to the Omid Scobie thing. Clearly, those two were telling Omid that Charles is a racist. That was in the book as it was released. And then he tried to take it back. Oh, I never said that to the translator. Well, Omid Scobie did. Anywho, he gets kicked out and he has to go right back home. He had to stay in a hotel. He did fly private for a commercial for that one. They want nothing to do with this pair. And so what we have here is yet another attempt to use the royal name and the royal titles to make money, which is exactly what the Queen asked them not to do. They've launched a new website, a new brand to try to get more money because they think their problem is marketing, is branding. And they refuse, as always, to realize it's them. There's no amount of rebrand that's going to help them.
It doesn't matter how much glitter they decide to roll it in, it still is something nobody wants to buy. Nobody wants to read, and whatever fascination they have are in lives in the past. And the thing that they don't get, I think that they don't understand, particularly say about podcasts, video, all the rest of it, right? Unless you're going to be really, proper open about your life, right? Like that sort of reality level, okay, too much information, or let us into the madness of your life, then that's not particularly interesting. And they're not really people that anyone would consider particularly insightful, or dare I say sort of, public intellectuals to actually tune into okay, how are they going to help my life? Like, these are not, Jordan Peterson-like people.
Oh, God. She didn't even mention them in the same breath. So you're exactly right.
Just trying to
They
trigger
have
you.
no insightful commentary to offer on anything. No one wants to hear, unless they're going to be talking about the royal family, which is how they got their Netflix deal. And it was interesting. We wanted to see the behind the scenes stuff about the queen and so on. No one's going to listen. So if they're going to talk about their lives and their thoughts on life, it's going to be more banalities. That's what we got the first time around. No one actually cares about what Meghan Markle thinks about X or Y or Z. We just want to hear them talk about the queen and what it's like to be a royal. Now they're out of that material, so we're going to be stuck with more lectures on which words we're not allowed to use, according to who? Meghan Markle. Who cares what she thinks about what words I attempt to use in my life? Couldn't care less. This is why Spotify wanted to get rid of them. This is why they were called the greatest grifters of all time by Bill Simmons over at Spotify. They didn't live up to their deal. They weren't producing more content for Netflix. All these deals are circling the drain. So they went to the no-name far-left organization that signed her up. I guess we're going to get more drivel on feminism, according to Meghan Markle, who's done nothing other than get married. That's her big accomplishment. Fine, I like being married, but it's not like that's what a feminist does. We get married and then we tell everybody about what we did as a married woman thanks to our husband's money. Woo, me.
Yeah, I mean, look, as important as marriage is, and obviously happy Valentine's Day, here it is in Australia from those who love you here,
Yes.
but it's not landing on the moon. Like it's like when these people go, it's like, that's something that, okay, wow, really? Only this many? And how many? But, anyway. Now, The View. Sunny Hostin is one of the most annoying people on the most annoying show on television in the US. And she's all about, the far left stuff and racism and institutional racism. She does one of these tests and, what's in her past?
I was really reluctant to do it because I just sensed that there could be something in my family history that would be disappointing. But what I found out was that my mother's family, while they are Puerto Rican, they actually originate from Spain. And the reason that they moved to Puerto Rico is because the slave trade had been sort of canceled in Spain and then Curacao, and then they moved all of their slaves to Puerto Rico. And so the family business, I had been told that they were printers and journalists, but they were in fact enslavers.
Yes, it turns out her mother is white, which she claims she didn't know, and she's descended from slave owners. It's amazing. She's been ripping on the United States and our terrible past, and she's been demanding reparations for, modern day Black Americans, many of whom had absolutely no connection whatsoever to slaves or slavery, but still they need to get paid. And it turns out she's going to have to pay out. She's not receiving anything. She's going to have to pay it out. She says she stands by her demand. She wants the reparations paid. Okay, Sonny, you first. She lives in a multi-million-dollar house. She has a multi-million-dollar job. Her son is at Harvard, I'm sure, because of her connections and her top-notch education that she provided him in private school, undoubtedly. And she still thinks the country's unfair and needs to pay reparations to modern-day American Black people. So it turns out that Sonny's mother, who she thought was Puerto Rican, is white. And she was not, she thought she was Black and Puerto Rican, and she's not. She's from Spain originally, and she's white. Those are Sonny's words and Sonny's conclusions after going on with Henry Louis Gates, who does, this show on your ancestry. And she's talking openly about how disappointed she is and how she wished, this is why she never wanted to get this done, because she knew she would just be horrified if this were the case, because her mother had blonde hair and is lighter skinned and has blue eyes. The horror that she might turn out to be white, the disgusting white race for a mom. I mean, it's the only Sunny Hostin or somebody like that in the American left can get away with this kind of talk. Can you imagine a white person being like, never wanted to have my ancestry checked because I was really worried I might have that one drop of Black blood in me. The horror, I never, oh my God, I'm disappointed, I'm horrified. You would be an obvious racist and called out appropriately. This is not even a footnote in the media that she said any of this.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I've been thinking about this a lot in the past few weeks, right? Which is that we know that these people are hypocrites, but it is amazing how hypocrisy does nothing to hold them back. Instead, they're able to sort of shape-shift and move their way through. And also, what about this garbage where she turns around and says, after learning all of this, she had to have a difficult conversation with her mother? A difficult conversation? What is the difficult part of the conversation?
Right. I hear you're the shameful race. I'm so ashamed of you for
You got
being
the poison
white.
in you.
I can't believe. And now I find out I'm half white, right? This woman who's out on the view. It's actually so wonderful. I love the whole story. Both of our first two stories I love. I love that Meghan Markle's coming out with another podcast for you and for me, not for Jan Pop. And I love that Sunny Hostin has been caught yet again in her absurd hypocrisy, and that she's both going to pay the reparations and I suppose receive them. We'll look forward to that transaction at the checking account.
Now, of course, Miss Diversity hire over at the White House, well, she's kind of dropped her boss right in it. Where, well, I think we all kind of guessed that the only reason we got the press conference the other day after that DOJ report came out, and by the way, can I just say, we played part of it on our show, your dissection of the lies he told in that press conference was amazing, right? I posted on our socials. Everyone's got to go and see it, because it's not just, you know, the mistruths that were in there, but basically you were able to say, see, he said this, well, this is what the report actually said. It's a masterful way of doing things, and you're the best at it, right? But obviously, the only reason we got that press conference is because Biden still thinks Biden's got it, right? So Biden thinks he's still the guy who everyone's in love with because he owns a pair of aviators and fake teeth. Like, he's a used car salesman from a generation way gone. He's a boxer that's way past it, yet still, I mean, remember, we had the fight between the TV doctor and a guy who had a stroke, and the stroke won in Pennsylvania. So even if this bloke is as addled as he is, Democrats will still all get in behind him. But surprise, surprise, Joe decided to put Joe's foot in it.
My memory is so bad I let you speak.
The hostage negotiation, look.
Concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press. How can I say this without revealing it? You know, I guess I just forgot what was going on.
And now he comes out and says, oh, the special counsel's all wrong, and this is totally inappropriate of him to put the mean things in there about me being a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory who's, you know, got other frailties that a jury might find too sympathetic to convict on any crime. Therefore, we can't bring charges against him. As he's trying to defend against all that and saying, trust me, I'm super smart. He, of course, makes several mistakes, including he lied in that press conference and then made mistakes calling the president of Egypt, the president of Mexico, and so on. And now the whole spinmeisters around him, you know, all over the media this past weekend and the early this week have been saying, inappropriate, there's a partisan hack. This guy, they never objected to Robert Hur before, the special counsel, saying, hey, he's too partisan. He's a registered Republican. We can't have that. Well, why is that okay? Because the guy prosecuting Trump is a registered Democrat, Jack Smith. They don't seem to think party registration is a deal breaker, only when it's a Republican going after a Dem. And what in the report says he is partisan. Any prosecutor would have to explain to the attorney general, this is why I don't think it's appropriate to bring charges. No jury's going to convict this guy. Should he not say that? Should he say we've got the grounds for the charges, so we must file them, and completely ignore what everyone can see, which is that he's too elderly to convict. He's too sympathetic, most likely, to a jury that's not going to believe he could remember all these documents. He should have just kept that to himself, not told his boss, really, Attorney General Merrick Garland, that he had noticed all these significant memory failings. I mean, it's absurd. So what do they do with Joe Biden? They put him out there to try to disabuse us of the notion that he's too old. That failed. Then they put out these videos of him trying to be a man of the people. They're all pre-taped, scripted. He looks stilted and elderly still, so that doesn't work. So then somebody asked the White House, KJP, the diversity hire, which she admits, how about a cognitive test? Would he take the thing that Trump took? Because his annual physical's coming up, and last year he didn't take one. And she said no. She dodged. She didn't say yes, and she just kind of said, well, it is what it is. You know, the doctor's going to do kind of what he did, which means no. And then they followed up, same thing, got out of bounds. It's a dodge, so it's a no. So if he's all there and he's so great, why can't A, we see a cognitive test, and B, can't he sit down with somebody like me or any aggressive interviewer who would give him a tough time, but a fair time to see how he does. He wouldn't even do the Super Bowl halftime interview with Gayle King, which would have been not football, but softball, one after another. And he wasn't willing to do it. So if he's so great, let us see. If we're not supposed to believe our eyes and our ears and this report by the special counsel, put him out there. They won't. And there's a reason.
Now, there's one other thing that, and again, we went through the detail where so many similarities to the Trump situation. I know that the great divergence is about whether as soon as things were discovered, they were handed over, or all of this garbage, right? But there's one bit that I did want to talk about with you, which is the bit that I'm surprised that somebody has not been charged is the ghostwriter. Right? So remember, CNN had the tapes of documents being handed around by Trump, and this is one of the big things that we played to a
not
jury.
handed,
right?
waved.
Yeah, exactly right. So no question. But in this, we know that exactly the same thing happened with the guy who was writing Biden's book, but the tapes were erased. But also, doesn't the special counsel say the tapes were erased when they learnt an investigation had begun? So it wasn't like,
yes,
look, that was 5 years ago, the book was done and I just deleted everything. How is that not a crime?
No, so that's a key distinction you're pointing out. Trump is being tried right now. He's being accused of breaking the law, among other reasons, because he had a classified document relating to military plans and was waving it around in front of a group of people saying, here it is. This is the plan that General Mark Milley gave to me. I've got it right here. But he didn't show, he's not accused of showing it. Joe Biden is accused of having it inappropriately by any measure because he was never president. He was never able to declassify things as Trump was. And so he would have known this is inappropriate for me to have. And we know he knew because he said to the ghostwriter, oh, this is classified. Let me read it to you. You can't see it, but I'm going to read it to you, which doesn't save you. And read it aloud, knowing that this guy wasn't supposed to have access to it. And then once he understood that the investigation had started with the special counsel, the guy deleted the tapes. The only reason he's not facing charges himself, I believe, is because there are still written transcripts of what happened on those tapes, supposedly, that we can trust. So I suppose that's why he didn't wind up like a Walt Nachua. That was Trump's bag man who helped him with all the documents. But yeah, it stinks to high heaven. And frankly, Joe Biden's behavior with respect to his documents was as bad as Trump's up until the point where the feds got involved and insisted on the return of the documents. Biden forked his over and Trump didn't.
Yeah, I just think there's plenty of stench. And if you haven't, go back and see Megyn's breakdown of this, which was Friday, Australian time. Megyn, so good to talk to you. Let's do it again next week.
The pleasure's mine. See you soon.